people with mental health problems is the cost of the drugs that treat them. Comments? Go ahead.
I'll take the question, but not the answer. You're absolutely right. That's an enormous problem, and as we get better mental health drugs, they're coming out more expensive than they were last time. It's generally true of drugs for a lot of different conditions. We have to get a handle on it. It's a federal problem. We have about 3% of the population of the United States in Oregon. We don't wag the dog on drug prices, telling drug companies what they're going to do. It has to come down from the federal level. But I am currently serving on a work group of the House Healthcare Committee looking at drug pricing and the ins and outs of it, and it's extremely complicated. And yes, there are examples of drug companies that are gouging. It's very hard to get data on what the cost of producing these drugs really is on an individual basis. Some of our best cancer drugs, for instance, are just damnably expensive to make, but they're very good for what they do. Mental health drugs, I don't know. But we have to have a different kind of insurance system that will allow us to be means tested to fall into another category of reinsurance. Because you can't expect insurance companies to buy into this, but at the same time, individual patients can't either. So there's going to have to be some kind of a plan that will address these drug problems and the price thereof.
Thank you, Jim. Other comments? Anyone care to comment on the question? Yes, Sharon.
We live in the greatest country on earth, and I know this is a bad thing to say, but we need some form of universal health care that takes care of drugs for people, and mental illness drugs should be no different than any other drugs for any other illness. So I think that there should be some means of providing drugs to people that don't create a bankruptcy. So I would love to be a part of figuring that tough nut out, because it just has to, it's the elephant in the room. But it has to be, somebody has to grab it and go for it. It's a problem, huge.
Thank you.
Let me jump in, because the issue is not just drugs, it's affordable health care. That's the issue across the board here. And the ironic portion of this is what's mentioned here, is there's very little anybody in the legislature is going to be able to do about that particular topic here. Now, here's an intriguing thing. The legislature is taking 10 years to be able to finally pass a bill, and this doesn't matter what party you're in, to get a bill out that identifies at least the average cost of certain medical functions and medical procedures that happen in the state of Oregon, so people can actually see with some transparency where they are. Now, ironically, pick your poison, okay? In the last 10 years, the price of drugs have continued to gone up. In the last 10 years, you've had both Democrats and Republicans in the federal Congress controlling it both times. And in the past 10 years, we still don't have a solution to this problem. So I guess vote wisely in the federal election that comes around. Because once again, you know, anybody will tell you this, you all know this, you have people that will go to Canada, people will go to Mexico, and they can get access to the same drug at much less expensive in a foreign country, but they can't get it here. And we, for whatever reason, haven't been able to get our colleagues in Washington, D.C., and I say colleagues because we're rated slightly higher than, I think we have like a 22% rating in the legislature, and they have about a 14% rating. So we're slightly higher than there. But that is the issue right there. But that would take almost 90 members of the legislature unanimously beating the heads and shoulders of our federal congressmen to get something done.
Any other comments on that question? Hearing none, this is the second question. Two problems which need addressing in regard to the mentally ill are how we can assure they will stay on their medication, and how can they be provided with meaningful activity. What thoughts do you have in this regard? Ron?
Sure, I'll take a stab at this. I alluded